saying, and this is a program largely initiated by the man next to me here, Ken Bagwell, who is from North Carolina. He's a subscriber to the American Landscape, a fellow believer, and also a person who is a former baseball coach and former talk radio host. And he had contacted me about this idea of talking to you folks about current events. And so here we are. And we're going to open today with a brief lifting this program up to the Lord and then go from there. Father, we come to you today and we just lay this program at your feet. We ask for your blessings. We ask for your spirit to speak through us. And let us communicate ideas and thoughts that helps the good guys defeat evil in this battle, cultural battle and spiritual battle that we're in. We lift these things up to you, Lord, in the name of your Son and our Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen. I don't know if that's
Thank you,
altogether too religious for some, but it gives you an idea because on the American Landscape, we're always talking about prayer, and just give you a little sampling there. So, Ken, welcome. You had contacted me with the idea about this conversation, and I like it. We're going forward with it. And you said that, you get sometimes frustrated listening to people talk about current events because they don't get asked the right questions. So I'm going to pass it on to you to see what questions and take this conversation forward for the next few minutes.
Well, I'll throw some things at you, but one of the things you said to me to get started is, hey, let's look at the Democrat National Convention and compare notes. What are you seeing? What am I seeing? And I thought, okay, that'll be a good idea. The only thing I did not like about that, Cliff, if I can be brutally honest, is I didn't plan on watching it, but you wanted me to watch it for the sake of having a conversation with you. So I did. I sat down and I watched some of it, and I will get you back. I will get you back.
I have to admit,
it will
that
not
was truly
be
painful.
it will not be
experience.
Okay. Hey, some first thoughts. Let's throw some initial thoughts out there. The first thing I thought of when I heard AOC, she is speaking, and honest to gosh, it felt like I'm sitting there listening to somebody run their fingernails down a blackboard.
Yes.
It's just a screech, and I'm going, oh, Lord, help me. I don't want to listen to this stuff. That was the first impression I had of the Democrat National Committee, so that's probably a good start.
Well, AOC is what I would say is a mouthpiece for others. She really comes up with very little original content of her own, which is exhibited when she's ever interviewed off script and without a teleprompter.
Mm-hmm.
When given a teleprompter, she develops ideas that others behind her supporters, want her to convey. And she always does it in a screaming mode, like she's charging the wall,
Yeah, I mean, is that just a personality thing, or does she think that gets her attention, or how does that work?
Well, it's interesting. Have you noticed that all of these speakers, my wife noticed this, they all seem to want to scream when they're at a microphone that conveys their voice very well. The only one that didn't scream was last night. That would be Bill Clinton. But sadly to say, watching him, he can barely speak anymore. He's almost in the same boat with Joe Biden, in my view.
No, I did watch him. A lady came on. She had a 17-second soundbite this morning, or I don't know. I pulled up one of the sites I go to is the Liberty Daily, and it's just gives me kind of overview of what's going on out there. And it was pointed out by this one woman. I wrote this down because I wanted to get it right. She said, and get this, Cliff, because this was a knockout to me. She said, in this convention, on stage, inside, you had communism being presented. On the sidewalk outside, Hamas is burning the American flag. And in the parking lot is Planned Parenthood doing abortions, doing chemical.
Yeah, sort of operating out of a converted lunch truck.
Yeah, but don't those three things just encompass everything that I anyway thought about that whole Democrat movement? It's just, and especially the whole, hey, if you'll come here, then we're going to have a bus set up to where we can do vasectomies and abortions. To me, that is like in your face to the Almighty. And man, I'm thinking, do you people know what you're messing with?
I've renamed it the Demonic National Convention.
Yeah.
Largely because of the spiritual darkness is just blatant. Every speech is pro-abortion. Every speech addresses converting the gender of your children. And we listened to Tim Walz, who is a man who would do it without your consent to your child. And if you can think of that concept, even trying to be floated, even a few years ago, you wouldn't have dreamt it. But now they're writing laws to that effect. It's really a conversion of America. And you listen to the speeches, they present no policy to speak of. I didn't hear immigration at the border mentioned even once. I didn't hear inflation mentioned other than to say it's caused by corporate gouging, or as Kamala says, gauging.
Yeah.
They'll correct her along the line, you know. But and then the other is World War III, that is just knocking at the door out there. And I didn't hear anybody addressing what this new administration is going to do to solve any of those problems. They just want to talk about joy, the right to love who you want to love, and the right to kill who you want to kill, I suppose, and mutilate who you want to mutilate. And that is their platform, it would seem. And correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. I think you're, as my dad would say, you're hitting the nail with your head.
It feels like it.
Do what?
It feels like it.
Oh, I know. I'm listening to these folks, doing my best, listening to Bill Clinton. Okay, Clinton spoke, Hillary spoke, Kamala spoke, Joe Biden, Obama. And I'm sure that they had a message. I know they're trying to get across whatever they're trying to get across, but Clinton's up there. And for the life of me, as I'm trying to listen to him, the only thing I can think of is this guy sold our missile guidance systems knowledge to the Chicoms so they could better target their missiles. This guy.
Did that help his foundation by any chance?
Yeah. Yeah. And this guy, as I'm watching him speak, hey, we're adults, we'll go there, really likes little girls. You know, how many times was he on Epstein Island? And I'm watching this guy on national TV, and I know I should be listening to what he has to say, but I'm thinking this guy's a piece of trash. Sorry, that's just that's not very Christ-like, but that's me.
You know, it's interesting that somebody talking on CNN yesterday or this morning pointed that very fact out and said, you know, the generation that is voting right now, very few of them remain who were Clinton devotees back in the 90s. His time has come and gone with respect to political clout, except within the elite of the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
And the newer generation is looking and saying, who is this old guy? We've heard so many bad things about him. What he does with interns, what that he has raped people with impunity, that he has gone to Epstein Island, and that he gets painted in a blue dress, hung in the living room of Jeffrey Epstein. This guy, he's shameless that he would even take the stage at this point, but such is ego.
Well, and then Hillary, I'm watching her, and my first thoughts about her are, okay, she sold our uranium stockpile to Russia. Okay, is that treason? Kamala, well, how in the world can you look at Kamala and not forget how she got there? I was listening to a lady speak the other day about, well, hey, I can tell my daughters that, or Kamala is wanting us to tell, or the Democrats want us to tell our daughters that, look, you can be president of the United States. You can work your way up. And this mother is saying, wait a minute, am I going to tell my daughters this is the way that you get to where you want to go in politics? Hey, lay on your back, spread them wide, and do it enough, and you can become Secretary of State. You can get to the United States. That's not the message I want to send to my daughters. But she has the nickname Hills Up Harris for a reason. And okay, but I mean, I got another one I'll get to in a few minutes. We've already mentioned on the war thing, but as I'm watching it, you're doing it too. As I'm watching it, you're seeing these people, and in the back of your head, you're really realizing this is really who these people are, and they're not good people.
No, it's interesting about Kamala. Everybody knows her for, if you've been watching it all, everybody knows her for what she is and what she's done. Everybody watched what she did to Kavanaugh in the hearings. Everybody's watched what she has not done as vice president. Everybody knows about Willie Brown, and I haven't seen him at the convention. Have you?
No.
But he's watching, and I'd be very interested to interview his wife and see what he thinks about Kamala. She thinks. You watch these people. One thing about Kamala is that she may have risen up through the ranks because of, as you put it, putting the high heel salute to certain people, but it is also the currency in Washington, D.C., by which people own you and blackmail you, and you do what their bidding is, or you'll see something you don't want to on the front page of tomorrow's paper.
Right. I think
controls so many in Congress.
Yeah, Sidney Webb, I believe, wrote a book, Government by Blackmail.
Right.
And that's there. Watching Joe Biden in his speech, of course, it went on forever. I have a hard time listening to him, but I cannot watch him without thinking this guy sold out his country for nice homes and a Corvette. It's how do you watch this guy and hear anything he has to say when you realize what he has done to this country? Obama comes on. He's just, maybe it's just me, but he's just a disgusting creature to me. And
yes, I agree with that. It's an interesting thing. We all have been raised with the concept that God made man in his image. And by virtue of the fact that we have a sense of humor, tells you that God has the original sense of humor, which he imparted to us. And I think that if you're watching, you can see his sense of humor manifest in the fact that you say that Biden sold his soul for a Corvette and a home on the beach, but at a time when his mental capacity is such he can't even appreciate those things anymore. And I just think, how many times has he run for president and he finally gets it and he can't hold on to it because his mind is going and he can't stop it.
Right.
I just think that's hilarious. Now, with respect to his national goodbye speech, I think that God has also imparted to Joe Biden a certain sense of humor. in that I don't think anybody in the Democratic Party anticipated his endorsement of Kamala in the course of that national address. And it put the Democrat Party in a corner they haven't been able to escape from. And where I come with that is that when I see Michelle Obama take the stage to a standing ovation that seems endless, I think she was the designated anointee that the DNC was planning on when they removed Biden.
I wonder what changed their mind.
Well, the fact that he announced his endorsement of when he was leaving, he told the nation, I endorse Kamala, which I think just sent people hitting the walls. The Obamas of this world, the Clintons of this world, that was to be decided by them, and he took it out of their hands. Mm-hmm. And so, as a consequence, in retaliation, I think that the Obamas and the Clintons had William Holder be the one who vetted her vice president. And they came up with Tim Walz, who is beyond a strange human being. And it's like putting a millstone around the neck of Kamala's campaign, and will prove to be more so, I think, as the weeks go by. So they're stabbing each other in the back, but to no good effect in terms of beating Trump.
What do you see in Walz?
I see a person who is so liberal he doesn't even understand himself. Anybody that would send a grandmother to jail for daring to keep her business open during the COVID when she had no alternative other than to not feed her family is a unique individual. I think his stolen valor is something that he can't run away from. Although last night, when the person who was introducing him, and he gave his rank as the one that he's always maintained, which everybody says is false. He's sticking to the line.
Right. Right. So we're back to.
I don't like him, in other words.
Well, and then I see Obama. I think of weaponized immigration, and just a disgusting person. That might not be a really nice thing to say, but that's just what I'm thinking as I'm trying my best to watch the guy.
Well, as I recall, the Obama years were a politically correct effort to convert our country to a socialist environment. And I think Hillary was supposed to close the deal when she was elected, mm-hmm. although God had other plans, and she was defeated. I think that through Biden, I think the Obama people, his staff, have attempted to complete that unashamedly by completely opening the borders, planting those people, even flying them in to communities throughout the United States. And I don't think we've even gotten the impact there. In North Carolina, do you sense the presence of a strong illegal immigrant population?
Not where I am. I am in upstate South Carolina, right across the border. But I mean, I spent all of my life in Western North Carolina. But interesting you asked that question, because I was wanting to talk to J.J. Carroll. If you and I were talking about maybe me doing a program too, and one of the people I was wanting to talk to is J.J. Carroll. A lot of people may recognize the name Carrell, and he is a retired Border Patrol agent, and he is hysterical. No, that's not a good word. He is really on top of what's going on at the border, the people that are coming across, and especially the child trafficking for sex and labor. And I'm going to ask him about those things. But you ask if I see anything going on down here. The right. Only thing that I could see, because I am in a kind of a rural part of Spartanburg County, South Carolina, and a little bit of land around the homes. I mean, we have 2 acres, other people have 40 acres, and it's just, nice rolling cattle grazing and gardens and really good people. But I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and some people are building right across from him who are Ukrainian. Okay. But they've just got a ton of kids. They keep having a ton of kids. And I was asking her, she's a real estate agent. And I said, what's the story with this? I mean, because there's somebody that's moved in right next to us. There's another couple over here. And she said, well, if I understand it correctly, they are not necessarily seen by the federal government as married. It's their church tells them that they're married before God or whatever, but and I'm trying to get verification on this, but in her understanding, they're not married. So what does that make her? That makes her a single mom. So for every child they have, they get X number of dollars and this package and that package. So now you put pockets of those people all over the place. And basically, oh man, this drives my wife crazy too, because she doesn't like his talk. I'll get yelled at about this. This will be the part you have to cut. But I'll go, basically, it looks to me like it's just a welfare thing. We bring in everybody we can bring in. And if we can keep having kids, we'll just get making money. Now, my question to J.J. Carroll is going to be, or to you, if you see where I'm going, is what happens if the money stops? What happens if the money stops? Okay.
Then they start looking at your house and asking what's in it.
Would they? I mean, that's what I'm saying, because this real estate lady said, well, they would just have to figure a way to sell their home, or they just might go back to their home country or whatever. Say, what if they decide they're not going to do that? And it's just the whole weaponized immigration thing. I cannot for the life of me, Cliff, see where it ends without some really ugly stuff.
I don't disagree. I just don't think it's come yet. I also live a bit in the country, up in the mountains, and I do know it's in New Mexico. And I will tell you that, Michelle Lujan Grisham has apparently just opened the floodgates so far as people coming in. And we see people in Albuquerque when we have an occasion to go there, but nothing that I would identify. They're kind of like, truth be known, they're blending in with the homeless and the drug addicts and the tent people. And you really have a hard time saying those are illegal immigrants sitting there. But like you say, when the money stops, they're going to start looking at what do you have. And, you sit where you sit, I sit where I sit. And if we don't feel it on a daily basis, I think it kind of slips by us as to what they're doing to this country, when they're not just dropping them in New York, and they're not just dropping them in Chicago. They're dropping them in communities across this country. And these are mostly military-aged males, as we hear every day. And those people are going to want to eat. They're going to want a place to live. And they're going to want to have sex at some point. And that's what I think we're seeing in Europe. With the immigrants in England and France and Germany, where it's dangerous for the community, girls raised in the community, to even go out alone.
Exactly.
In certain areas. And I think that's what's happening here when we're talking about the Lincoln Riley type people. We're safe. You don't know what's safe until it's unsafe. And then when it becomes unsafe, you're alone and you're defenseless. And we're seeing it with several young ladies across this country. I think we're going to see more. And nobody seems to ask at the convention, Kamala, why aren't you stopping why aren't you stopping the problem now rather than when you're elected? Or for the past 3.5 years when you could have and should have. I remember when Biden was running from the basement in 2020, it seemed to be one of his promises was that if elected, he would cure cancer. You recall that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my question is, why didn't you do it in the last 50 years when you were in the Senate?
Sure.
And that's kind of what they're not asking at the convention, not addressing while they're talking about joy and acceptance of all lifestyles. Anyway, Ken, I appreciate you being here. Well, I want to do it again. And as things develop, let's rejoin and go through it and see what the reaction of the other subscribers to the American landscape.
Okay.
If you do start an interview program of your own, you had a title you want to attach to that, and you want to broadcast that, let's do it.
Yeah. I'd like to call it What's Your Take?
What's Your Take? I love it.
I would like to call it What's Your Take and get some folks to come join us. I mentioned J.J. Carroll. I would get him. I mentioned you, Annie Jacobson, who wrote a book on nuclear war, which, boy, that's another one that if you and I wanted to do something like this, I'd love to get your take on it. What's your take? I'd love to get your take on her, Kamala, being so infatuated with her power with a pen. And what could happen if she were in charge of something a lot more powerful than a pen? That could get scary. And another thing I'll throw at you.
People, Ken, before you go on, let's circle back and tell people exactly what you're talking about. The video.
Yeah, it was the video, basically, and you saw it too, and people can look it up. You told me this morning that they can go to YouTube and just look up Kamala Harris.
With the stroke of a pen.
Yeah, and basically, Cliff, she said that she was young in her career, about 22 years old. I'm not going to make any Willie Brown jokes or anything, but she was young in her career at that age when she realized that with the stroke of a pen, in her position in some career in the legal system,
as a prosecutor
with a stroke of her pen, she could send this guy to jail, and she could make him lose his job, and she could bankrupt him because he has to pay his expenses out of his own pocket. And later on down the road, she could dismiss the charges, but that guy had been destroyed. And just look at that. Look at what I did with just the stroke of a pen.
And she was reminiscing about that as if it were a pleasant memory that currently lives in her brain.
Right.
That's what she tried to do with Kavanaugh.
And my thought then was, okay, if you think, if you got a really fuzzy feeling thinking about what you could do with the stroke of a pen, what could you do with the nuclear football?
That's a great
with
question.
the stroke of a pen, I can put this guy in jail. I can totally break him. I can ruin his career. But with the push of a button, I can kill 6 million people on the other side of the world. I could kill billion people on the other side of the world. Cliff, come on. Help me out here. But does that mentality, do I want that mentality anywhere near the nuclear trigger?
The short answer is no. Hey, our time is drawing near, and you don't want her near the football. Not only because she might send a bomb, but because she would use it to threaten a bomb. And that would be our diplomacy going forward with other nations. That's not what America's about.
You got it.
Ken, I thank you for joining us, and I look forward to your program And I would hope that we can continue the conversation there if need be. Let's see where it goes. And thank you for the ideas of putting us where we are today. And I will, with that, sign off. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cliff.
Bye-bye.